Hello to all Star Wars fans. It happened. The long wait has ended. Finally, the first episode of the third season of Mandalorian, the most intriguing series, was released. Din Djarin has reunited with Grogu and plans to atone for his sins by going to Mandalore to bathe in the sacred underground waters of the planet. I think you are all interested to find out what is so remarkable we were shown in the first series. So we start without unnecessary introductions. The series opens with a blacksmith woman from the children of the Watch clan. She forged a child's helmet for the initiation ritual, and after a few minutes took it to the riverbank, near which all representatives of the children of the Watch gathered to accept a new foundling into their ranks. We are shown this ritual for the first time, but as we see, there is no exact ritual, the usual oath of a child standing knee-deep in water. Suddenly, a huge beast descends on the assembled Mandalorians, neither a crocodile nor a dinosaur turtle, or even a mixture of all this. The battle begins. The blasters certainly do not pierce the beast's skin. Moreover, the monster manages to bite several fighters. Nothing helps. Just as suddenly as the beast emerges, Din Djarin comes to the rescue on his upgraded N1 fighter, firing just one torpedo into the belly of the animal. He instantly knocks it down, so much so that the insides flew apart. It's funny, it turns out that only one child was accepted into the ranks of the Children of Death, and almost 10 other Mandalorians were lost. As it turns out, Djarin flew in for a reason. He brought proof that there is still life on Mandalore, and this proof is a green crystal inside of which a small tablet with Mandalorian text, which is frozen. There is no Tarantino-style dialogue there, and the blacksmith woman simply says, "This is the way." Well, okay, go ahead. Din Djarin, along with his little named son Grogu, goes on the road, but not to Mandalore, but to Nevarro, to his old employer, Greef Karga. While the heroes were flying in hyperspace, Grogu was able to see huge space whales or octopuses outside the space corridor. It is not completely clear who they were, that they were moving at the same speed as the ship. These creatures have previously appeared in the Rebel series. They are able to travel through space and jump into hyperspace better than any ships. And by the way, they also took Ezra Bridger and Thrawn to a new space that will be shown to us in the Ahsoka series. Arriving on the planet, he is seriously so surprised. Absolutely everything has changed. Now it is not some backwater village, but a regional shopping center. A lot of hard workers have flocked there, and even mines have appeared in the orbit of the planet. Greef Karga himself becomes a Grand Master already. I was most amused by how 2 small droids carry his gorgeous cloak behind him, the cost of which probably exceeds the price of the entire planet. We were shown completely different races, representatives of all people of the galaxy gathered on Nevarro. The same applies to droids. It feels like there is a droid of any model here, especially amused by the cook droid, and same as the book of Boba Fett and in the second episode. But the most significant of all droids is the deceased IG-11. A monument was built from his fallen mechanical body in honor of his heroic feat of liberating the planet from several stormtroopers. Interesting. Greef Karga immediately offered Djarin to stay on the planet and even get his own land plot, and he was very persistent in his offer, but Djarin refuses. He has more important business. He will explain which one later. In the meantime, a brawl is brewing near the newly formed school, which used to serve as a local eatery, and only Nikto pirates who recently arrived here remember this old place, so to speak. They arrive to extort a percentage from Karga, like he runs a luxury business here and does not want to share any profits with a criminal authority named Gorian Shard. Greef Karga tried to settle the conflict in a diplomatic way, but as always, everything ends in a shootout, from which our heroes emerge victorious, while the leader of the pirate gang runs away in fear. So that's why Karga so persuaded Djarin to stay. The people of Nevarro need a sheriff who will solve much misunderstandings with the criminal world, and at this moment they explain to us why Cara Dune has disappeared, which in the past was the local sheriff. It turns out that after the arrest of Moff Gideon, the New Republic recruited her into a special squad, but we know that Disney just fired poor Gina Carano, who played Kara, and the actress will no longer appear in the series. Well, it's a pity. Jaren refuses to become sheriff. Instead, he asks to give him the deceased IG-11 because to travel through the dungeons of Mandalore, he needs a badass droid whom he can trust, just like IG-11. In the first season, he not only became personal Grogu's bodyguard, but also saved Jaren from death by healing his wound. Since the droid has been dead for a long time, our brave heroes take it directly to Karga's office for repair. Strange, of course, there would be no way to take it to some garage. They carry it directly to a chic, expensive office. It's like you and your grandfather will repair his old truck in the hall of a big theater. The repair is successful. That's just the droid rolled back to factory settings and rushes to take off the baby's head. Jaren, of course, starts shooting at him, and again, a strange moment. Remember the first episode of the first season? When the droid wanted to eliminate Grogu, Jaren calmly shot him with just one shot in the head, and then he fired a whole clip at the half-dead IG-11 and nothing happened. As a result, a former Iron mercenary is killed by a protocol droid by dropping an iron bust of Karga on his head. However, the Mandalorian does not lose hope of repairing IG-11 and attributes that to the Anzellans. This is the name of the race of small freaks whose representative, Master Babu Freak, from the 9th episode. They all turn out to be great masters of droids. That's the truth. They can't fix the assassin droid. There are not enough special parts, so Jaren goes in search of these very spare parts. As I understand it, the storyline with the IG-11 is not closed, and most likely after the repair of the droid, we'll get a completely different head, because his current head is flattened, which will make it look like the C-3PO in the 2nd episode. Well, you remember when B-1 head was accidentally attached to him at the factory. Something similar will happen to this droid. As soon as Jaren decides to leave Navarro, several Nikto pirates fall on his tail, a sidekick of the very gang they shot near the school. A rather beautiful space battle begins, the first in several years in Star Wars, from which Jaren of course comes out victorious, and in the end even meets the flagship of that very gang leader, Gorian Shard, who for some reason looks like an Aquaman from Russian fairy tales. Most of all, I liked his ship. In its shape, it is very similar to the huge cruiser Eclipse from the expanded universe, and although Jaren managed to escape, he will soon have to meet Shard again, because in one of the trailers we were shown another frame with his flagship. In conclusion, Jaren and Grogu arrive on a remote planet in the same system as Mandalore to inform Bo-Katan herself about plans to go to her historical homeland. It turns out that all her people fled after she did not return with the Darksaber. She had one last chance to return the ancient relic with dignity, but she did not cope with it. Jaren still decides to go to Mandalore and find those ancient mythical sources in the dungeons, which, according to Bo-Katan, are just superstitions. She completely despaired and lost faith in herself. The episode ends with Jaren and Grogu resolutely leaving the castle while Bo-Katan remains. Surely she will think a little, light up with desire, and fly after them, because in the frame shown in Empire magazine, she looks like a full-fledged companion of Dean. Actually, that's it. In fact, the series turned out to be quite crumpled. The locations changed too quickly, did not show any interesting characters, everything that shone in the trailers many times. This was what the series consisted of. Nothing. We continue to follow the series and share everything with you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so as not to miss the analysis of the new series. Thank you all very much for watching and for staying with us. Until we meet again.